Okay. All right. We have a very special guest today, Andreas, and I'm really excited to have him on, talk to him. I feel fortunate I got to meet him in person in San Francisco for a seminar and then see and I'll let him tell you about his latest production where he lets you in on, I'll let him get into a little more of his 2-day session he put on there at AMG. But yeah, so really quick, I call this the Truth About Golf podcast, and Andreas loves to get to the truth. He loves asking questions about golf. Everything is questioned, which I love. And I like that. And so, Andreas, for those of you, for some reason, that have been hiding under a rock, or maybe we're just golfers and not coaches, who are you briefly? And how do we know you?
My name's Andreas. I am a coach in Denmark. I run a junior academy called Danish Junior Golf Academy, which is placed like 20 minutes north of Copenhagen, where I think I'm in my 12th year now. Coaching there, helping out a bunch of young, ambitious players who love golf. And yeah, just kind of help out. Some of them progress and get better, and they go off to college in the States, or they turn pro and, they start traveling the world, and then new ones come in. So currently, the age range is, the youngest I think we have is a 7-year-old, and the oldest we have is a 27-year-old.
Wow. So you're kind of modest about that because you have produced, they've been at the finest colleges in America and they're on tours around the world, right? Like what colleges have some of your students gone to?
Well, Oklahoma State University.
Oh, that's an
That's where
okay one.
Rasmus went. Yeah, it was cool. I actually went up there and visited him in 2020. It's like
Oh, nice.
it's like the mecca of college golf, right?
Yeah.
Had a girl at Texas Tech. Had a guy who played at TCU in Arkansas. We've had at the academy. We've had guys at Texas, Florida. What else? We've had a couple at University of Houston, University of Colorado, a couple there. South Alabama. Got a girl this year last year won. I think she won. Did she win 5 or 6 D1 tournaments in a row at New Mexico State?
Wow.
She's still down there in the book. Bunch of guys in junior colleges, Arkansas, Little Rock, like multiple places,
All over.
all over. And then got what do we got? Got two of the boys playing DP World Tour now is where they've ended up. One of them won the British AM this year. One of
Yeah,
the guys
his name
in like
is.
Jakob Skov Olsen.
Yep.
So he played at a small junior college in Ranger, Texas for a year. Then he played 3 years at TCU, and then he finished up at the University of Arkansas last year.
Okay, so was he how? And I don't know anything about how was with Daly, right? Is Daly on the team?
He was teammates with John Daly Jr. Yeah,
And
his final year.
how's John Daly Jr.?
He likes him. He was there. They're good friends.
Cool.
I think he would. I think he told me he drove down with him to play like this YouTube golf. Like he's
Yeah.
on this with. I think it's the good guys and something. And Jacob
Okay.
like sat in the back of the car and watched how they produced it and stuff. And then I guess like a month or two afterwards, he ended up winning the British Am.
Oh, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
what do you get for winning the British Am? But what does that get you entries into the next year?
What do you get? He's starting first round of second stage of Q school right now. He is also exempt into second stage of PGA Tour Q school, so he's playing that.
Okay.
He is, no matter how that goes, he's exempt into the Masters.
I was gonna say, so yeah.
Yeah,
Masters
he
is a
got
big
into
one.
he got into the Open this year, made the cut
Very
at
nice.
Royal Troon. What else? I
I
think
heard a
he finished
podcast of you talking about, being there at Royal Troon and
insane.
yeah, I can't remember. Wait, were you talking to Hugh? Was Hugh part of it?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was insane. I'd never been to a major championship before. Never been to, actually never been to Scotland before.
That's what he said. It's funny. He's like,
Yeah,
shame on
yeah,
you.
yeah. I know. I just hadn't had anything to do over there
Well,
till then.
yeah, yeah.
So no, but yeah, we went. It was awesome to get to share that experience with him. Get to see how he measured up against the best in the world, really. And
Yeah.
to be really honest, he made the cut, and I think he finished like in the 50s.
Yeah, nice.
I think if he was putting, I think honestly, if he had just been putting average, he would have finished top 20. So he knows that
Okay.
he's got the game for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I kind of like to split this show up into like two sections. One for like coaches to learn and a little bit for the player. So
Yeah.
like if we talk about coaches, because when you started, like tell a little bit when you started the Danish Academy, like you've obviously had, because I talked to you a little bit about the stuff you've done, like Humar, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about. Like this just didn't happen where you had all these these people at these schools, like,
No.
and this progression. So, what can you, like, coaches, like, what any advice on juniors and what I would guess a long haul plan and development of how coaches can see that, because to me that's the true test of a great coach. I mean, it really is somebody who can develop a player from a young age and to get them to college and then the tour. Like, to me, that is the
Yeah, well, it was never, I don't know. I guess the point was all along has always been to create, like, the whole academy was founded to see, can we aid in creating the first Danish major champion, right?
Mhm.
Like, that was the end goal. I think early on, I think it was super competitive. I think we started with players at very young ages, so they weren't more than like 8, 9, 10, 11 years old,
Mhm.
but get kids who felt the same way about it, because there's not that many in every single club who are in that age range who really love golf. Like,
Right.
they show up for practice and that'll be about it.
Yep.
So that was the very first thing, was like, can we gather these together? Can we do something that is better than that is being done at the clubs? Which is not necessarily better. It's just more targeted towards kids who feel that way. I would be lying if I said that a boatload of mistakes weren't made along the way.
Yeah. Well.
But I think we were also fairly humble with it and knew that we didn't know everything.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of, okay, we think the answer is here. Okay, maybe it wasn't the whole answer, wasn't in having the perfect golf swing. So maybe, like, pretty important how good your golf swing is. Maybe what are we missing? Get in new smart people, get in new consultants, look at it. I think we were the first place in pretty much, I think we were the first place in Europe who had Rob Neal's 3D system. I think we were
Okay.
one of the first places who owned TrackMan. Like, we had the old TrackMan 2 with the wires everywhere and stuff.
So you're right. You're pretty close. You're pretty close to Trackman, are you?
10 minutes
Physically.
away.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So that's basically how it started. I think over time, I think instead of just looking at what are they shooting, all these different things, and making it like a black and white thing of either you have it or you don't, I think we figured out that early on you don't know who the hell's going to get good. Like, really,
Yeah.
however, you do know for a fact that if they quit, they're not going to get good. So it changed around a little bit, that we still have this end goal of creating the first major champion in Danish golf, but also making sure they stay in the game for the rest of their life. So
Okay.
it's not an either or thing, that if I don't get world class, I don't want to play.
Burned out and you're no good and it's not worth
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So we spend a lot of time with that. I think over time, I think our resume, and the good thing is now we've got data, right? We've got experiences. We've got all these things that shows us that we don't know. Like, what we can tell by who's good early is who's the best early.
Yeah. I think
But we
that's the
don't
tough
know
thing.
who's, yeah.
Well, how do you, let me ask you this question. Like, so you have an 8 or 9-year-old, 10-year-old that's really good,
Yeah.
hasn't hit puberty yet, hasn't had their big growth spurt yet.
Yeah.
Have you, and let's say they have the drive, are you able to make any correlation at all, or
Well,
to that?
I would say this, especially on the boy side, is if they don't absolutely love it, then it's not going to happen. I
It's
know
just,
that
yeah.
much, right?
Yep.
We can probably over time do some benchmarks, probably not at that early age, but you probably need some sort of ball speed to be able to get really, really good.
Yeah.
You probably need to, like, you can't be a horrible putter. So you got to be at least like around average.
Yep.
We can do these things, but I think a lot of people confuse being good at the game early and then loving the game early. That's not the same. Like, you can have 9-year-old who's really, really good.
Yeah.
And the reason why they're really good was because they got brought to the course at age 2. They've played way more golf than everybody else. Maybe their dad or mom took them to get formal lessons really early. Maybe they have better equipment. Maybe they're physically larger. Like, there's a lot of reasons for that. And I've confused it before. I don't confuse it very often anymore. That somebody's good and somebody who loves it. And I think over time, the people that love it, for them, it's not work. You know what I mean? Like, it's like it's their favorite time of day. It's the time of day where time flies and 3 hours has passed and goes, yeah, we already done.
Yeah, that's the difference in it.
Yeah, so there's these signs, right? And I think they can get confused a lot in a very measurable sport. The love for the game is not very measurable. However, the scoring average or the handicap or the driving distance is very measurable, right? And some people would confuse that, because I've had some players who were incredible, absolutely incredible at an early age, and they were also talented enough at a like very late age to have a full scholarship at a major Division I school. And you find out that, you know what, they were just really good. They never didn't really particularly love it.
They're
No,
gifted.
they were just really good at it, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like as soon as the parents weren't around and their coach
yep,
wasn't around, you know what, they
yep,
found other interests, and which
yeah,
was again perfectly fine.
yeah.
But it's just you sit back and you think like, crap, all these hours spent, like was he or she, were they doing it for me? Like,
Right.
because I
What was
thought I was
behind it?
doing it for them,
Yeah,
right?
right. I feel like, and maybe you can help like with this is for the coaches. I feel like it's tough to diagnose from an early age. And what I try to look at is, and I'm no good at is, and I know we're both huge fans of the talent code. Like, how early do they have to do the fail, 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 and just keep going? Or are they just out there hitting balls like everybody else and like seeing the
Yeah,
difference? Is this student able to? That's kind of what I look for a young age. I
yeah,
don't know. Have you noticed that you can almost, does that tell you a sign? Can you see an 8 or 9 year old
yeah,
that will fail and then they're okay with it, and that
yeah,
maybe transfers to 14 or 15, that they're
yeah,
that
for
student
sure.
that's good,
Well, I think
or
I think
that will be okay
I
with the
think
failure?
everybody any good, that's how they go about it.
Yeah.
It's not very ego driven, right? I mean, they look for places to improve, or this is
Yep.
difficult, so this is fun, or this
Yep.
shot I'm not very good at is very interesting to me, so I can stand here with my 50 balls and hit flop shots over a bunker, and I can blade half of them and chunk a couple of them, but then every now and then when I succeed, I'm like, oh, that was pretty cool. Where
Yeah.
there's a lot of players who won't even consider doing that because they
Nope.
might look like idiots, right?
Yeah.
It's
Won't
going to make me
experiment with
look
it.
bad because it doesn't matter. We're practicing, right?
Yeah.
So for sure you'll see a lot of that.
I love seeing that.
Yeah, and I think though, like there's a bunch of signs, right? There's some in my coaching. There's a lot of group coaching, right? Like I mean, if
Okay.
you have to go to the bathroom every 30 minutes, that's probably a sign you're not in love with this, right? if
It's so funny. Yeah.
if
Yeah.
if you show up 15 minutes before practice and you don't grab a wedge and start chipping around or grab a putter, but
Yeah.
you sit down on a bench with your phone,
Yeah.
probably not like
Probably. Yeah.
all that
Right.
excited about it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can tell with like the questions they ask, right? Are they context related? Like,
Yep.
what do I do with this? Like, how does this work? Why do I need to do this? Blah, blah, blah. And then
Yeah.
you have like, I mean, again, simple things or like a grip change, right?
Yep.
I mean, if you see somebody once a week and maybe they have to change their grip and you tell them, all right, you need to turn your hands in this direction.
Yep.
If they show up the next week and it's like the old one,
Yeah.
and you probably maybe you correct it again and they show up the next week and it's like the old one, well, you know what?
Yeah.
Maybe they're not that interested yet,
Yeah.
honestly. And you can probably waste your time doing this. So maybe instead do some stuff that makes them find the game interesting, like make them fall in love with the game. And then as soon as you got somebody like that, they're
Okay.
like a dog wagging their tail, right? They're like,
Yeah.
dude, just tell me what to do. I'll do it. What
Yeah.
do I need to
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
And those are the students we all want, but
Yeah.
there's just a time there where you can't do that with everybody.
Right. It's something I've always, it's the, and we have it, I guess is, I'm a failed golfer, that it's that inherent drive, I think, to, get better always. But I think very that uncomfortable, like the difference I feel
Yeah.
like you separate, like I have a really good junior I teach, and I tell him to do stuff and he's uncomfortable, but he's okay with it. I'm like, are you okay?
Yeah.
Like, he's like good with
Yeah.
it. Where you take
Yeah.
everybody else, like, oh, guy, Erik is so uncomfortable. I can't, and you hear
Yeah.
how uncomfortable it is 10 times in a row. Whereas
Yeah.
others are just like, oh, what do I make? Okay. All right,
Yeah.
here we go. Let's do it and experiment with it. And
And
that
but
is a
I'd
great
also
trait.
say on the other hand, so when you have a player who is all in and saying like, tell me what to do, I'll do it.
Yeah.
That's when you as a coach got to make sure that you've got your shit in order. Because if
Yeah.
your concepts are wrong,
Yep.
you're going to make that player worse because they're going to do what you asked them to do
Yep.
or what
Yep.
you suggested. So you
Yeah.
better than be right.
It's a lot. It's big. I mean,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah. You got parents trusting in you, a kid trusting in you.
Paying
So
you money, they're doing
yeah,
different things, right?
a lot.
Um,
Yeah. So we all know speed is like, you have to have a certain amount of, you can just look at the tour and you say, like, here they are by driving distance. You
Yeah.
pretty much say, you got to get to this level, whatever the number is, and whatever it'll be by the time a junior gets there. Now, what are you doing anything for juniors at a certain age of speed training, or are you just building it through their swing and efficiencies? Because I've heard Dr. Scott Lynn talk a lot about like nailing it, doing speed training during like their puberty cycles is one of the best times
yeah.
to get gains. Are you
Yeah.
doing stuff like that? Have you?
I would say we're not doing it at certain times.
Okay.
We're always kind of doing it. And I
Okay.
think that's some of the cool stuff, right? Especially when you got players that aren't all in, you'll go like, okay, so how do we make players better and they have more fun? I mean, we have one of our TrackMan simulators, all winner, is just basically basically set up to this TrackMan program called Hit It, which is long
Yeah.
drive competition.
Yeah.
Right? Who the hell doesn't like hitting it as far as possible? So
Yeah.
we've got
Okay.
leaderboards with that. We think it's important. I think Danes in general probably will hit it further than average because I think we're the second tallest country in the world.
Yeah.
So we've got some sort of physical advantage. I think the environment for sure that we're in, because everybody hits it. Like we've got two guys that are above 200 ball speed, right? If they want to be. We've
Wow.
got Rasmus right now, who's leading the Challenge Tour of Merit. He's a little dude. The guy went to
Mhm.
Oklahoma State. He's probably 5'7", 5'8". He's still at 180 ball speed.
Wow.
I mean, they crank it, right? So I mean, but it's because they know it's an advantage. They enjoy practicing it. So I would say that we will, in general, if they're doing long drive, I don't really care what they're doing. What I will say is that if we're using different speed tools, and we use the stack a lot. I like that.
Yeah, like that. Yeah.
Then it's not like just on their own. Like I'm keeping an eye on how they do it,
Okay.
so that we're not increasing club speed, but screwing up the geometry and the technique.
So let's get into that because some people think you just flail and just let it go and it doesn't matter. So
Yeah,
explain how you explain that to people
and
because I
well,
hear
I
the
think
differences all the time or
yeah, and I think
misconceptions about it.
yeah, well, again, right, and I think it depends on the level of player and stuff. I
Okay.
think there's for your regular club golfer in general, they would likely just get better at golf if they swung the club faster. However, I think it's the most potent or best when you actually got somebody overseeing what you're doing. Because, I mean, very often the quirks in your golf swing that screws up your direction or your
Yeah.
strike are likely because of where you feel powerful from.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. A power source. Yeah.
So, as an example, the player who opens the face in transition and starts tilting back down to the bottom of their downswing, more than likely it is the left arm, like lead arm pulling hard down really, really hard,
Mm-hmm.
causing let's see if I can put myself in this picture, causing the lead wrist to start to, let's see, where am I there? As
There
I
you go.
pull
Yeah.
down, the lead wrist starts to extend. So you're opening up the face and you're causing all
Yep.
these things, right? And that could be the player who feels that pull down being super powerful.
Yeah. Yep.
So if like we want to get rid of that, we're practicing some stuff to get rid of it. If we then afterwards put you over on a speed program and tell you just go as hard as you can, don't worry about it, and then they
Pull
start doing
harder.
more, then we're kind of like bouncing back and forth, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd like to keep an eye on it, and I'd like to put constraints on it and go, let's practice speed, let's practice being powerful, but let's practice being powerful from here.
Okay.
So we're
That's,
not like, I absolutely hate learning something that we need to unlearn later on.
doesn't make sense. Yeah.
No. And not to me, at least.
Well, so I feel like, just among the regular public, that is, I don't know if you want to say epidemic or what, but the pull down from the top for speed, which they think is gaining speed. So if we're just talking to the regular golfer so much and the pulling down the face open, what would you say, what can they work on, or what would you, what do you like to do with people if you see the regular golfer that is the big pull down and transition to, it's all about change. The power source is hard to change. If this is you feel this is your power source, if you cast and you throw all the energy into the club face right away from the top, do you feel that's powerful, or are you trying to close the club face, or is it both? And
exactly, right. So I would say if you got a club golfer, I would make sure you got some stuff in order first. I would say if you don't have the strike in order, then it's probably not worth going faster. I mean, it doesn't matter how hard you're hitting the ground before the ball. The ball's not gonna it's not gonna go as far as you would have liked it to go, right?
Yeah.
I would try and get the face and path in order so it's going kind of straight-ish.
Okay.
Like so it's going within like reason. And I think as soon as you got that, then you can start adding speed. What's the interesting part is that there's some people who actually, as you let them speed up and you practice something really fast without a face on it, because there's different speed tools, they don't have a face on it. There's actually some people who start to hit it better and straighter because they're not doing all kinds of weird things that they think they need to do to align the face to the target, right?
To manipulate the face,
yeah. So again, right, like I would be surprised if the player that you're talking about workout that is casting the club from the top with a really wide arc downstroke.
Yep.
I would be surprised if they practiced for a month with some sort of speed tool and a radar for feedback,
Yeah.
if that was still the solution after a month for them to move the fastest. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, they should be able to see
there's
it by
no
the
way
training
they
and the
would
speed.
move like that.
You couldn't. Well, you wouldn't gain.
No.
You wouldn't see the gains in it.
No, exactly, right.
Really
And I think that's some of the cooler stuff, and I think that's why I prefer the stack system, because the player that's kind of like that, the app would over time likely recommend a much heavier workout plan,
Yep.
like with a much
Yep.
heavier stick, so the club will start to like stay back in transition.
Yeah.
So I think some of these things, but I still think that a person left on their own with this completely, I think it could get troublesome. At least I've seen that, which is why I think we can still coach players and how to move with these things.
I like that. That's great advice. I feel like I get that question a lot. Erik, should I start doing stack? Should I do this? And one of my thoughts is, you got to get, I feel like, efficient to a bit first. But I really like what you said there about, they're going to realize most likely over time that is not a good way to produce speed.
Yeah.
But watching it under a watchful eye, so you can at least make sure you're progressing
so
in the direction
not
that you
like
want.
I could get speed from a lot of places, right? And we got to make sure we get speed from the right places for that certain player. I mean, I've had club golfers that are swinging the driver at 94 miles per hour, a dude in his early 50s, who's now averaging 106 club speed with his driver just when he's hitting. And that is purely through that and me monitoring it. And he's for sure become a way better player.
Almost 40 yards probably.
Yeah. Like he's way better at golf, right? And at his age where everybody's getting worse, like he's getting better. And he was decent. Like he was a 6 handicap maybe.
Yeah.
And now he's like down to a 0.
I believe it.
As he was getting older, right?
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I look at when I look at those speed charts and because I guess maybe I'm there at 52, but you look at how speed declines at some age, and that's what I told you, if you're at 100 now, wouldn't it be better to decline from 110 or even 106 versus 95? Like this person's going to decline at some point, but at least they're declining from a higher number and not from 96. So they have a lot more years.
And again, right, we've got the same thing with the juniors. We just started indoor training. We are primarily we're in the early stages of sitting down with everybody, getting everybody measured out, set goals for the next 6 months. What do we need to have done when we're outside? And I mean, every single one of my players, they have a speed goal when they hit a hard driver that they would have on the course, that when we get to April, they are between 6 and 10 miles per hour faster. All of them.
Okay. Wow.
And I don't think that's unrealistic.
That's awesome. Any age or specific, or just all the juniors?
Not really.
Yeah.
Well, again, if they're in their 20s and they're already hitting it pretty hard, those aren't the goals we're setting. They don't need it. But everybody who is at 115 club speed at like a hard driver on the course and below that, we have a goal between 6 and 10 miles per hour increase.
So speed, what do you think you're going to need in 5 to 6 years cruising speed? Do you see cruising speed for tour that you're trying to get your golfers to, so that they have what they need on the tour? What do you think you need?
I think you probably got to be about 180. I would imagine.
Yeah,
is what I would imagine. Now, I also think that there's some sort of limit ball speed wise. Like I think there's an upper limit too. I don't know the exact number, but in my mind, it's in like it's like 195 ish. I think is like functional ball speed.
So where you at some point you get above where you can't control it to your benefit anymore.
I think so. Like I think there's just so little that has to be off between just where you hit it on the face or something, and the ball will it'll be in the air for so long that it could go crooked for there's some sort of number. I don't know what the number is, but something just tells me that there's an upper limit to this where it doesn't become functional anymore.
There has to be. I think probably the more I guess we see at upper speeds, I think then we'll probably have enough that we'll get the numbers at some point to be like, that's just this guy's just got too much, or to find averages that
because I mean you're still you're gaining point something every time you hit the driver well, but I mean if you hit 1 OB per round, you're losing too. You're not gonna catch that with the other 13 drives.
No, so if you even look at I think Rory's gaining 1.4 if I have it right per round, and then maybe losing from hitting rough maybe 0.2 to 0.4. So he's gaining a shot a round maybe, and that's 4 shots a tournament or 4 shots a tournament.
And that's a lot, right? That's a huge competitive advantage. I was fortunate enough to see him hit drivers at the Open. He stood right next to us on Monday. I saw saw him hit 8 drivers in a row. I'd never seen it before like that up
Yeah.
close.
Yeah. Different.
Insane. Like that's it's honestly one of the few guys so far where I've been like on the driving range impressed.
Yeah.
Where I'm going like, shit, my guys can't do that.
Something different.
Yeah, but most I'm like looking at it going, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we can
Yeah.
hit the ball better than that. We can do
Yeah.
like that driver. Like I was like, I don't think my guys can get it to fly like that. But on the other hand, right, then I'm not saying that that's exactly like how it's always going to go. But I mean, he for sure hit the driver way better than Jacob. But after the first 2 rounds, Jacob was making the cut and Rory was flying home. So that's not also where everything is, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like that was art.
Does it sound different?
Yeah,
Did it sound different?
The flight was, and the sound was not the
No,
sound. The
not
flight
the sound.
was
The
different.
flight.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was so freaking high without being spinny. Like it was just not moving. It was pretty cool.
Pretty well. Yeah, and I don't know, is Rory up to like the 130s in height? I feel like if you used to look
I
at
don't know.
height, everybody used to just do this 100 window. Basically every club.
His is higher than average for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. I didn't know if things had changed over here in Tour, but I feel like everybody's starting to hit higher. And I don't know if that's for a little more stopping power, but even with irons, I know it's higher. But it definitely seems like drivers are going higher now than what they used to.
But I think that depends on where you are in the world. You can't, if you're living where I'm living, you can't play golf with this ball flight, and you can't play golf with a high ball flight. It's too high. The wind is too thick. We're too close to sea level. It's too cold. It's just very different.
Yeah.
If you're playing in South Africa, hit it as high as you want. If you're playing in Colorado or Arizona for that matter, just hit it to the moon. That's perfectly fine. But there's places where you can't do that.
That's a great question, because I feel like I get people all the time come in from Ireland, and I teach like, Erik, I can't get this higher than 10 feet off the ground.
No.
So the environmental influence. So you have that over there. So are people hitting it low? Like, is that the best way to get around over there? Like and then how do you transition it?
I'd say fairly low. It's not as much the height as it is the spin rate.
Okay.
It seemed like as soon as that ball gets certainly above 6,000 RPMs with irons, they're going everywhere if it's blowing.
Yeah.
So it's just air density, temperature, all these different things. It just makes the difference, right? But again, you just make the adjustment. So a driver that is really good in Denmark probably spins 2,500. Mm-hmm. You take that driver and you fly straight to South Africa, to Johannesburg with it. You can't keep it in the air. The air's too thin. Like this, you got to spin it like 3,500 to driver
to get it up.
Yeah. So keep it up. I would imagine it'd be the same in Colorado.
Yeah. So are you working? I guess the great thing with TrackMan is you can set that and work in spin loft and all that before you even go.
You can measure it, right? And you have the adjustable drivers, and you have like all my guys that play DP now, because it's available to them. They add 1.5 degrees of loft to the driver as soon as they go to South Africa.
There you go. You got there's you have that. There's your spin loft right there to get the extra spin, right? Yeah,
right. And pretty much all
swing.
And all the manufacturers now, they have like 3 tour balls that spin different rates. You can change the ball, you can do different things, right? So you can get it to match. And I would say that what works well one place doesn't necessarily work well another place.
Okay.
And of course, you can get the player to make all sorts of adjustments to get the ball to do something differently, or you could just kind of change the club and the ball, and then it just does. You can keep doing what you're normally doing, and now it's fine again.
So I think, I don't want to take much more of your time getting to it. And I want to give one little snippet here for the average golfer, that I would say the average golfer probably struggles the most with clean contact, hitting the ball well. So they're listening to Andreas, like they come to see you. What are you going to do to help them make ball contact first? Where I just saw this study that they did, I think it was 2022, and something like 80% of amateurs contact, behind the ball, low point behind the ball.
Yeah, I could only imagine, right?
Yeah.
That's the epidemic. I think there's, a couple of things, right? I would make sure, first of all, that they know how impact is supposed to be. I think most people don't think that they're supposed to bottom out in front of the golf ball.
No, just that understanding. You're 100%.
Yeah, so right, I think that would be number one, right? I think just because, I see a lot of people, they're trying to get it up in the air and they're trying to keep the handle back to get enough loft on the face.
Yeah.
But so getting the understanding that this club's moving on an arc first, and the bottom of that arc has to be in front of the golf ball, first of all.
Yep.
Then the next part is I would talk to them about because that's for sure what I would practice is contact. It's the biggest differentiator, separator in skill between players.
Contact.
So yeah, for sure. And being able to control low point, having low point in front of the ball with irons, and having the low point likely in behind the ball with the driver, and being able to adjust that, and then knowing what adjusts that. So that would be the three most obvious pieces that control this is where is your center, your pelvis located impact? How far forward is it? I think that's measurable. And I think that you would find that the worse the golfer is, the further it's back.
Okay.
And they
Where
don't
should
get
the
it
pelvis
full.
be if you look at it?
I would
About
say
approximately 7 9.
from if they start out at a very fairly neutral spot, it should probably be 3 to 4 inches and more towards the target than where it started. And that means, and most of that actually happens from left arm parallel on the backswing to left arm parallel on the downswing. So it happens earlier than people think. Knowing that, then knowing that where the center of my chest is compared to where it started, if it's further away from the target, then I'm likely hitting the ground before the ball.
Yep.
So those would be the two most obvious places to look. And for people to understand that your pelvis and your chest needs to be further forward than where it started, and especially the pelvis. And then the last part would be, when did the club get to its longest point?
Explain that for people. The longest point. What do you mean?
So like you basically have a club, right? And that's,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go like this. You have what do I have? I've got a little Apple TV remote.
Yep.
And you've got a player who is, as you set up, the club is fairly long to the golf ball, and as you swing back, it gets shorter through hinging the wrist or bending the wrist back and doing all these different things. And basically, one more time, when does the club become the longest again? The poor players, their club gets to the longest point before ball.
Yeah.
And the better players, the club actually keeps getting longer all the way through impact. So understanding like how I bend my wrists to not only keep the face square to the target or square-ish to the target or in a functional spot, but also so the club head doesn't overtake the hands before I hit the golf ball.
Yeah.
And I would say those three things, if people can get that under control, I can see how would they not get better at golf?
Well, I think that's golden. I mean, people are listening to that stuff, just taking that in, because I do ask people, like, what is impact? You ask them, they're standing with both, like, show me impact. And I don't know. So how are you ever going to achieve it, what you're going for? And what you just laid out there, that complete understanding. I mean, most people can move pretty good. Most people have some athleticism. If they are, I feel like I feel really fortunate that I saw these beginning golfers start from the very first swing a few different times at a range. Every one of them had these nice, beautiful, like little, probably 3 or 4 path out to the right, and the ball went boom way to the right because the face was way open, right? Did it again, way to the right, and within 5 swings they had this way over the top swing, right? But they were happy with it. I'm just like, oh no, there it goes. Like,
exactly, right.
They just screw themselves. Like, I just feel like golf clubs on the shaft need to have this huge sign. It's just a club face is where the ball starts, not shaft.
Exactly, right. So that's basically, at the end of the day, right, that's our job security for the rest of our life, is that golf is not intuitive.
It's not. I say that's like, I hear people say it is, and I'm like, it wasn't for me.
It's not. It's not intuitive at all, because if it was, then there wouldn't be no need for us. So I think it actually, like, teaching people that it actually goes higher when the club head overtakes the hands later. They were like, what? And then you have to explain it to them how it works, right? And like the actual face being, like, if you see the ball go right and curve to the right, you probably have to close the face, but also move the swing direction further to the right. So I'm swinging to the right to make it curve left. It just doesn't make sense to people until you can explain it to them. But I do think that people need to, in general, what I see, I think you can find golf tech studies. You can see all these things. They've been measured. The poorer the golfer, the further back the pelvis is. The poorer the golfer, the further back their chest is. And the poorer the golfer, the longer the club gets early. So if you can get those 3 things in order, you will be better. I can universally say that, and I can feel fairly comfortable saying that.
Agreed.
So
I just feel like it's you look at it. I try to look sometimes for professionals, like, what do 100% of them do, and what do most amateurs not do? It's like a mandatory. You hit the ball first, like low points in front. So it's like, maybe that should be a goal.
Right. And you can and it's like, it's part of our study, right? As coaches, is looking for the absolutes. I still think to this day, John Sinclair, player who's one of my really
Mhm.
good friends, who's sitting on, I think he's still sitting on the largest database of tour players ever. And he says, like, there's almost no things you can say in here that everybody does. But one of the things you can say is that everybody moves their pelvis linearly towards the target before they open it up. Okay, good. All right. So that goes for everybody who's good. And it also goes for everybody who's bad. They don't do it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, probably a good place to start.
Say that one again. I want everybody to hear that. Then we're gonna end it on that. So everybody good does what?
Everybody on the PGA Tour moves their pelvis linearly towards the target before they begin to rotate it towards the target.
They don't open it and open their body right away. No.
No,
They go
well,
linear
some of them,
first.
yeah, exactly, right? Now,
Yeah.
when do they do that? Some of them do it really early, and
Yeah.
some of it do it later, but they all do it.
But they all go linear towards. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's huge. Yeah. Yeah. I love those I love those absolutes like that.
Yeah, and that's about it. Now, and then I would say with the ball sitting on the ground with an iron, they have the low point in front of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I could go on for hours with you. I haven't even got into a quarter of the stuff, but I guess or even a tenth of it. But we'll have to do another one another time.
Yeah,
if
we'll do it
there's
again.
if people out there that want to learn from you, like tell me the thing I watched of yours. I don't know why I call it that. I can't, however you want to call it. How can they learn from you? I know you're super busy. I don't know if you're taking on any students through any mode, or I know you have another way they could learn from you, or how can they get in touch with you?
I'm doing some online lessons via Skillist. Problem is that they get quite time consuming. My way to slow that down is to increase the rate, which means that now those lessons are really expensive. So what I'm doing now and what I'm working on right now is I've opened up my website, which I'm pretty happy with. Right now, there's a web shop where I sell videos. The only video I sell right now is for golf coaches. However, over time, and I think the next one should be coming out in a week, 2 weeks maybe. It's going to be a lot of videos for regular golfers with different issues where they're going to sit there. They're going to be like way cheaper than an online lesson because I want to be able to help more people. And I'm basically running through, if you were to come get a lesson with me, this is what I would do if this was your issue. So the very first video that's coming out is going to be a long one. It's going to be about an hour, but it's basically just about how to cure your slice.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we're hitting probably 90% of golf or amateur golfers, probably, or whatever.
That's the thing, right? And there's going to be about how to hit it higher, how to hit it further, how to spin it more, how to fade it, how to do all these different things, which are basically what I would also do if I was standing face to face with a person. Now I'm just doing it with a camera. So I wanted to be able to help more people without costing a fortune and without necessarily so I can still actually get to be with my family every now and then and sleep at night. So it's not just working 24/7.
Yeah. Well, it's your own fault for getting so good that
so it's on it's on my website's called andreascalligolf.com. It's going to be like updating, or else people can, if I update something on the website, it's likely also going to be out on my Instagram page, which is called the same, Andreas Calli Golf.
Yeah, so sign up for that. I will put I'll put this all in the show notes, how to watch and get. I think one of the best things to do, and I think why people would, I haven't seen those yet, but they'll benefit, is because what I've learned from you from watching the seminar you did for coaches and also the live one is how good you are able at explaining things. And mostly that's why, I'll watch that stuff or go to these seminars, is I feel like I can always get better as a coach explaining a different way or a better way. And I just think your communication skills and all this stuff are awesome. So I imagine they're going to be absolutely awesome when they come out for the students to learn.
It's been, I think it's because I train a lot of kids, so you have to be able to explain it very, very simply but still correct, so people understand.
The key. Like, how do you take a complex, which it can, subject into something simple and understandable and effective, and that's what you learn to do, which is just awesome.
It's my goal, and it's the part of my craft that I keep trying to improve.
That's awesome. Andreas, thank you so much for coming on the Street About Golfcast. Appreciate your time, and
cool, Erik.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me on.
Love it.